Leon Taylor stood at his kitchen window. He sipped his morning coffee while looking at his backyard pool. The water sparkled in the sunlight. After 25 years in the Space Defense Force, he had earned this peaceful retirement. He had served 3 tours on the orbital defense platform SDF Horizon. Now he lived in a nice house in the suburbs of New Houston. The quiet morning was interrupted by a soft chime from his security system. Leon frowned and put down his coffee mug. He tapped his wrist device to check the camera feed. The screen showed a thin woman with short blonde hair entering through his garden gate. She wore an expensive swimsuit and walked in like she owned the place. This was not the first time. It was the 5th time this month. The woman was Patricia Whitmore. She lived 3 blocks away. She had decided that Leon's pool was free for her to use whenever she wanted. Leon had talked to her many times. First, he was polite. Then he gave stern warnings. Nothing worked. Patricia kept using his pool when she thought he wasn't home. Leon took a deep breath. During his military career, he had learned to stay calm. As one of the few black officers to reach command rank, he knew that showing anger even when justified could be used against him. So he had become very good at planning smart responses instead of reacting with emotion. "Computer, record all outside cameras," he said to his home system. Then he slid open the glass door and stepped outside. Patricia had already spread her towel on his favorite chair. She was putting her feet in the water when Leon spoke. "Ms. Whitmore," he called out. His voice was calm but firm, the same voice that had commanded crews through space emergencies. "You're on private property. Again." Patricia jumped slightly. She turned around with a fake smile. "Oh, Leon, I didn't know you were home. I just thought, since you hardly ever use this beautiful pool." "That doesn't make it public property," Leon replied. "I've asked you 4 times not to come on my property without permission. I won't ask a 5th time. Please leave." Patricia's smile turned into a frown. "Don't be so selfish. It's not like you military people paid full price for these houses anyway. Everyone knows you get special government rates." Leon felt a familiar heat rising in his chest. He had felt the same way early in his career when he was passed over for promotion despite excellent performance. But he had learned long ago how to turn that feeling into focused action, rather than useless anger. "I have 30 seconds of video showing you entering my property without permission," he said evenly. "If you don't leave in the next 60 seconds, I will call both the police and the homeowners association." Patricia's face turned red. "Are you threatening me? I'm just trying to enjoy some pool time. My husband knows the HOA president, you know." Leon simply raised an eyebrow and held up his wrist device. He showed her the countdown timer he had started. 50 seconds, he said. Patricia stood up quickly. "This is ridiculous. There are plenty of neighbors who would be happy to share their pools." 40 seconds, Leon continued calmly. Patricia grabbed her towel, not bothering to fold it. "You're being completely unreasonable." 30 seconds. "Fine, keep your stupid pool." Patricia stuffed her things into her bag. "This neighborhood used to be friendly before you military types moved in." Leon didn't respond. He simply watched the timer count down. Patricia stormed toward the gate, still talking. "My husband will hear about this. Don't think this is over." As she slammed the gate behind her, Leon sighed. He sat down in the pool chair Patricia had just left. The confrontation was tiresome, but he knew it wasn't over. People like Patricia didn't give up easily when they felt entitled to something. In space combat training, Leon had always done well not by fighting harder, but by thinking smarter than his opponents. This situation needed a similar approach. Leon looked at his pool, then at the garden gate. A plan began to form in his mind. He pulled up his contact list on his wrist device and called an old friend. "Aaron? It's Leon. I need some legal advice." Aaron Baker had been the legal officer on the SDF Horizon. Now he worked as a civilian lawyer. Leon explained the situation with Patricia and listened carefully to his options. "You have proof of trespassing multiple times," Aaron said. "That's clear enough. But if you want to really solve the problem instead of just reacting to it..." Aaron paused, thinking. "How advanced is your home security system?" Leon smiled for the first time that day. "Military grade. full command override capabilities. Well, then, Aaron replied, I think we might have an interesting solution for your problem. That afternoon, Leon made 2 more calls. One was to the new Houston permit office to make sure his plans would follow all local rules. The second call was to Susan Martinez, his former engineering officer who now ran a security company. I need something effective but not harmful, Leon explained. Something that teaches a lesson. Susan laughed. Commander, some of the best lessons I ever learned were from your training programs. Consider this my way of saying thank you for teaching me to think creatively. Leon spent the rest of the day planning. He looked at his property from all angles, identifying the best places for the new security measures. The solution couldn't hurt anyone, but it needed to be memorable enough that Patricia would never trespass again. By evening, Leon had a complete plan. He sent the details to Susan, who promised to have a team at his house within 2 days to install everything. Leon stood by his pool as the sun set. He imagined Patricia's face when his plan finally worked. For the first time since moving to the neighborhood, he felt truly in control of his own space. Respect isn't asked for, he murmured to himself, remembering the words of his first commander. It's established. Leon smiled and went inside, already looking forward to the day when Patricia would learn that important lesson. 2 days later, a small van pulled up to Leon's house. The side of the van had the words Martinez Security Solutions painted on it. Leon greeted Susan Martinez at the door with a warm handshake. They had served together for 7 years on the SDF Horizon, and she had been the best engineering officer in the fleet. Good to see you, Commander, Susan said with a smile. Just Leon now, he reminded her. Thanks for coming so quickly. Susan nodded toward the van where 2 technicians were unloading equipment. I brought my best team. After hearing about your problem, I had some ideas I couldn't wait to try out. Leon led Susan and her team to the backyard. For the next 4 hours, they worked to install the new security system. They placed sensors around the pool area, added special devices to the pool itself, and connected everything to Leon's home computer. From the outside, nothing looked different. The pool still looked normal and inviting, but underneath it was now much more than just a pool. The system is completely legal, Susan explained as they finished. It uses the same technology we developed for the non-lethal defense systems on civilian space stations. It won't hurt anyone, but they won't forget it either. Leon walked around the pool, checking the installation. And it only activates when someone enters without permission? Exactly, Susan replied. It scans for your biological signature first. Anyone else triggers the system. You can also add approved guests to the database. Leon smiled. Perfect. How do I control it? Susan handed him a small device. This links to your wrist unit. You can watch everything happen and control the system if you need to override it. After Susan and her team left, Leon put the final piece of his plan in place. He made a small sign that read, Private Property, Security System Active, and placed it at his garden gate. The sign was just big enough to be legal, but small enough that someone not paying attention might miss it. With everything ready, Leon settled into a routine. He worked on writing his memoirs about his time in space. He tended to his garden, and he waited patiently. He knew Patricia would return. People like her always did. Leon used his security clearance to access the neighborhood surveillance system. As a former high-ranking officer and current member of the Homeowners Association Security Committee, he had legal permission to view the public street cameras. He monitored Patricia's movements through the neighborhood, noting her patterns. Every few days, she would walk by his house, slowing down to look at his pool. Once, she even stopped at his gate, but seemed to change her mind when she noticed his car in the driveway. A week passed. Leon was starting to wonder if Patricia had finally learned her lesson when his home system alerted him. Security alert. Garden gate access detected. Leon put down his coffee and pulled up the camera feed on his wrist device. Patricia was slipping through his gate, looking around to make sure no one saw her. She had timed her visit well. Leon's automatic car had left 30 minutes ago to pick up his grocery delivery. Patricia thought he was gone. She had not noticed the small security sign. Or perhaps she had seen it but didn't believe it was real. Leon smiled and settled back in his chair. Computer, activate recording, full security protocol. On the screen, Leon watched as Patricia walked confidently to the pool area. She placed her expensive bag on the table and spread her towel on a lounger. She took off her cover-up and stood, in her swimsuit, testing the water temperature with her foot. That's when the system activated. A gentle chime sounded, followed by a pleasant computer voice. Unauthorized person detected. Security protocol starting. Patricia froze, looking around in confusion. What? The pool cover, which had been rolled back, suddenly began to move. It slid across the water smoothly, stopping exactly where Patricia's foot was. The cover gently trapped her toes, not hurting her but holding her in place. What is this? Patricia tried to pull her foot free but couldn't. Leon, is this some kind of joke? A recorded message of Leon's voice played through hidden speakers. This is an automated message. The property owner is not here. Unauthorized access has been detected and recorded. Local authorities have been notified. Please do not move until your identity can be verified. This is ridiculous, Patricia yelled, still trying to free her foot. You can't trap people like this. Small devices rose from the ground around the pool area, turning to face Patricia. Cleaning protocol will begin in 30 seconds, the system announced. Please state why you are on this private property. I'm just using the pool, let me go. Voice analysis indicates unauthorized reason. Cleaning protocol starting. The devices sprayed a fine mist that covered Patricia. The mist began to foam slightly wherever it touched bare skin. Though completely harmless, the foam had a bright blue color and a strong smell that would take days to wash off. Patricia screamed, in outrage and surprise. What is this stuff? Help! Somebody help! Leon watched calmly from his screen. The foam was a special formula Susan had developed for decontaminating space stations. It was safe enough to eat, though no one would want to. It also lasted for 48 hours unless treated with a special solution. After being sprayed completely with the blue foam, the pool cover released Patricia's foot. She stumbled back, trying to wipe off the foam, but only managed to spread it more. System will reset when unauthorized person leaves the property, the computer voice announced. Full recording of this incident has been saved. Patricia grabbed her things and ran toward the gate, dripping blue foam behind her. You'll regret this, Leon Taylor. My husband will sue you. As Patricia fled through the gate, Leon calmly called the local police department. Hello, this is Leon Taylor. I'd like to report a trespassing incident at my home. My security system has detained the person, but I think you should send an officer to take a statement. Leon smiled as he ended the call. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem wasn't through confrontation, but through carefully planned consequences. In space, he had learned that the most effective defense wasn't always a weapon. Sometimes it was simply making sure that actions had clear and memorable results. As he watched Patricia's blue figure running down the street, Leon knew she had just learned that important lesson. Officer Diane Miller arrived at Leon's house 20 minutes later. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and the confident posture of someone who had seen it all during her 15 years with the new Houston Police Department. As she pulled up to the curb, she immediately noticed the blue-stained trail leading from Leon's garden gate down the sidewalk. Leon was waiting on his front porch. He stood when he saw the police car and walked down to greet Officer Miller. Mr. Taylor? She asked, looking at her tablet. Yes, officer, thank you for coming so quickly. Leon's voice was calm and professional. Officer Miller glanced at the blue trail again. Want to tell me what happened here? Leon nodded and handed her a data pad. This has all the evidence you'll need. I've had a problem with a neighbor trespassing to use my pool. This was the 5th time. I installed a legal security system after warning her multiple times to stay off my property. Officer Miller scrolled through the data pad, her eyebrows rising slightly as she viewed the video evidence of Patricia's previous trespassing incidents, followed by today's encounter with the security system. The system is registered and permitted, Leon continued. It uses a non-toxic identification foam developed for space station safety protocols. Completely harmless, though it does take about 2 days to wear off. Officer Miller couldn't help a small smile. Effective deterrent. That was the idea. And where is Ms.? Officer Miller checked the information on the pad. Whitmore now? Leon shrugged. She left my property immediately after the system activated. I assume she went home. As if on cue, a car screeched to a halt at the curb. A tall man in an expensive suit stepped out, his face red with anger. Behind him, still covered in blue foam despite obvious attempts to wash it off, was Patricia. That's him. Patricia pointed at Leon. That's the man who assaulted me with chemicals. The man strode toward them. I'm Gregory Whitmore, Patricia's husband. I want this man arrested immediately for assault and false imprisonment. Officer Miller held up her hand. Sir, please lower your voice. I'm in the middle of taking a statement. Gregory puffed up his chest. Do you know who I am? I'm on the city council. I want to speak to your supervisor right now. Leon remained silent, his face neutral. His years of dealing with difficult diplomats in space had taught him the value of letting others reveal their own weaknesses through excessive talk. Officer Miller was equally unimpressed. Sir, regardless of who you are, you need to calm down, so I can do my job. Now, from the evidence I've reviewed so far, your wife was trespassing on private property. That's absurd. Patricia stepped forward, blue foam flaking off her arms as she gestured wildly. I was just using his pool. He's never even there. It's selfish to keep it all to himself. That's not how private property works, ma'am. Officer Miller replied dryly. She turned back to Leon. Mr. Taylor, can you confirm that your security system is in compliance with local regulations? Leon nodded. Yes, officer. I filed all the proper permits last week. The system uses no harmful chemicals and allows free exit from the property at all times. The identification foam is the same formula used in space stations for tracking unauthorized access, completely non-toxic. Officer Miller made some notes on her tablet. And you had previously warned Ms. Whitmore not to enter your property? Multiple times, yes. All documented with dates and times on the data pad. Gregory stepped closer, lowering his voice to what he probably thought was an intimidating tone. Listen, officer. I have connections in this city. This could go very badly for your career if you don't handle it properly. Officer Miller stared at him, her expression hardening. Mr. Whitmore, did you just threaten a police officer? Gregory stepped back. What? No, I was just explaining, because it sounded very much like a threat. Officer Miller turned to Patricia. Ms. Whitmore, did you enter Mr. Taylor's property without permission today? Patricia folded her arms, smearing more blue foam across her designer outfit. The gate was unlocked. That's practically an invitation. That is not correct under the law, Officer Miller stated, and there's a clearly posted notice about the security system at the entrance. She pointed to the small sign on Leon's gate. That wasn't there before, Patricia protested. The installation footage says it was, Leon replied quietly. Officer. Miller continued making notes, then looked up at Patricia and her husband. Based on the evidence, I'm issuing a citation for trespassing on private property, Ms. Whitmore. Mr. Taylor would also be within his rights to pursue a civil case for repeated, unauthorized entry. Patricia gasped. You can't be serious. Look, what he did to me. She gestured at the blue foam covering much of her body. What his legally registered security system did when you trespassed, Officer Miller corrected. She turned back to Leon. I assume you have some way to remove this foam? Leon nodded. Yes, officer. The neutralizing agent is programmed to be applied automatically once the trespasser has left the property and stayed away for 30 minutes. It's a security measure to prevent immediate return. That's imprisonment, Patricia yelled. No, it's not, Officer Miller said firmly. You're free to go anywhere except back onto Mr. Taylor's property. The foam is an inconvenience, not a restraint. Gregory pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyer, and then I'm calling your chief. This is an outrage. Officer Miller seemed completely unconcerned by the threat. She finished writing the citation and handed it to Patricia. "Here's your citation, Miss Whitmore. I suggest you avoid entering other people's property without permission in the future." Patricia snatched the citation, tearing it slightly in her anger. "This isn't over, Leon, not by a long shot." As the Whitmores stormed back to their car, Officer Miller turned to Leon. "Innovative solution, Mr. Taylor." Leon allowed himself a small smile. "In space, resources are limited. You learn to solve problems creatively." "Well, I doubt she'll be using your pool again." Officer Miller closed her tablet case. "Though you might want to watch your back for a while. People like that tend to hold grudges." Leon nodded. "I'm aware, officer, but I've dealt with worse than angry neighbors." After Officer Miller left, Leon went back inside his house. He pulled up the neighborhood social network on his home screen and wasn't surprised to see that Patricia had already posted a long, angry message about her attack at the hands of that crazy ex-military guy. The post included a picture of her blue-stained self and demands that the homeowners association take immediate action. Leon wasn't worried. He had followed all the proper procedures and laws. His security system was fully compliant with local regulations. And most importantly, he had evidence of everything. He sent a simple message to Aaron, his lawyer friend. "Phase 1 complete. Might need your help for Phase 2. The response came quickly. Saw the neighborhood post already preparing a response. "Well played, Commander." Leon smiled and looked out at his pool, peaceful once again. The battle might not be over, but he had won the first round decisively. And in his experience, a strong first response often prevented the need for a second one. The next morning, Leon woke up to several messages on his home system. Many were from neighbors who had seen Patricia's angry post online. Some expressed concern, asking if he was okay. Others wanted to know what really happened. A few even shared their own stories about problems with Patricia in the past. Leon took his time answering each message. He was careful to stick to the facts and avoid saying anything that could be used against him later. He knew Gregory Whitmore was a man with connections, and this situation was far from over. As he finished his morning coffee, his system alerted him to a new message from the Homeowners Association. It was marked urgent. The president of the HOA, Alice Johnson, wanted to meet with him that afternoon to discuss the recent incident. Leon sent a short reply accepting the meeting. Then he called Aaron. "They want to meet today," Leon explained, after telling his lawyer friend about the HOA message. "That was fast," Aaron replied. "Gregory must have been making calls all night. Do you want me to come with you?" Leon thought for a moment. "No, let's not escalate this yet. I'll handle the first meeting, but I'll record everything just in case." "Good plan, call me right after." At 3 o'clock, Leon drove to the community center where the HOA held their meetings. He wore a simple but sharp navy blue suit, the kind he used to wear for official meetings in space. He brought his data pad with all the evidence neatly organized. In the meeting room, 5 people sat at a long table. Leon recognized Alice Johnson, the HOA president, a kind but firm woman in her 60s. Next to her was Gregory Whitmore, looking smug. The other 3 were board members Leon had met at community events. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Taylor," Alice said as Leon took a seat across from them. "Of course," Leon replied calmly. "I understand. You have concerns about yesterday's events." Gregory leaned forward. "Concerns? You assaulted my wife with unknown chemicals. She had to go to the emergency room." Leon raised an eyebrow but said nothing. His security system logs showed that Patricia had not gone to any hospital. The foam had been tested extensively for safety and was certified non-toxic. Alice gave Gregory a look that quieted him, then turned back to Leon. "We've heard Ms. Whitmore's version of events. We'd like to hear yours and then discuss how to resolve this situation." Leon nodded. "I appreciate that." He activated his data pad and slid it toward them. "I've prepared a complete record of what happened. To summarize, Ms. Whitmore has trespassed on my property 5 times to use my pool without permission. I warned her verbally each time. After the 4th incident, I installed a security system that is fully compliant with local laws and HOA regulations. I have all the permits and approvals here. The board members looked through the evidence as Leon continued. Yesterday, Ms. Whitmore trespassed again. The security system functioned as designed. It temporarily detained her and marked her with a non-toxic identification foam. The same foam is used on space stations for security purposes. It's completely safe. It turned my wife blue, Gregory interrupted. Temporarily, Leon replied. The effect fades in 48 hours. There's also a neutralizing agent available if needed sooner. Alice studied the permit documents. These all appear to be in order. And you had a sign posted about the security system? Yes. At the garden gate. One of the other board members, a retired judge named Frank Williams, spoke up. I've reviewed the neighborhood covenants. There's nothing that prohibits this type of security system as long as it's properly registered, which it appears to be. Gregory's face reddened. So you're just going to let him get away with this? Do you know who I am in this city? Frank looked unimpressed. I was a judge for 30 years, Mr. Whitmore. I know exactly who you are, and I know the law. Alice cleared her throat. The issue here isn't Mr. Taylor's security system, which seems to be legal. The issue is Ms. Whitmore repeatedly entering private property without permission. That's a clear violation of our community guidelines. Gregory stood up, his chair scraping loudly on the floor. This is ridiculous. I helped fund this community center. My family has been in this neighborhood for 3 generations. Please sit down, Mr. Whitmore, Alice said firmly. Your family connections don't place you above the rules we all agreed to when moving here. Gregory remained standing, pointing at Leon. You have no idea who you're dealing with, Taylor. I have friends in every office in this city. Leon met his gaze calmly. And I commanded a defense platform that protected this entire planet, Mr. Whitmore. I've faced threats far more intimidating than local politics. The room fell silent. Even Gregory seemed at a loss for words. Alice finally spoke again. The board will need to discuss this privately, but based on what I've seen so far, Mr. Taylor appears to have followed proper procedures, while Ms. Whitmore clearly violated our community guidelines regarding respecting private property. After Leon left the meeting, he stopped at a small cafe nearby. As he sipped his tea, he received a message from Frank Williams, the retired judge from the HOA board. Thought you should know, the message read. After you left, the board voted 4-1 to issue a formal warning to the Whitmores for violating community guidelines. Gregory was the only opposing vote. He stormed out threatening lawsuits against everyone. Watch your back. He doesn't give up easily. Leon sent a simple thank you in response. He wasn't surprised by Gregory's reaction. Men like that believed their connections and money could solve any problem. They weren't used to being held accountable. When Leon returned home, he found a large envelope had been delivered to his door. Inside was a formal legal notice that Gregory was suing him for emotional distress, damage to property, Patricia's expensive swimsuit, and illegal detention. Leon smiled slightly. This was exactly what he had expected. He contacted Aaron and forwarded the lawsuit details. Right on schedule, Aaron replied after reviewing the documents. This is actually good news. How so? Leon asked. Because now we can countersue for harassment and file for a restraining order based on their pattern of behavior. Plus, this lawsuit is so clearly frivolous that we can ask for legal fees when we win. Leon thought for a moment. Let's wait one day before responding. I have a feeling there might be more to come. That night, as Leon checked his security feeds before bed, he noticed a dark figure approaching his garden gate. The system identified it as Gregory Whitmore. The man was carrying something in his hand. Leon watched as Gregory placed a small device on his fence, then quickly walked away. The security system automatically zoomed in on the object. It was a camera, pointed directly at Leon's pool. Computer, save this footage and send a copy to Aaron, Leon said, his voice calm despite the clear escalation. And let's prepare for Phase 3. Leon went to bed that night knowing that the battle had indeed escalated, but feeling completely prepared. In space, he had learned that the most dangerous opponents were often the most predictable ones. Gregory Whitmore might have connections, but Leon had something more valuable: patience and a carefully laid plan. The next morning, Leon called Officer Miller to report the camera Gregory had placed on his fence. "This is becoming harassment," Officer Miller said after viewing the security footage. "I'll send someone to remove the camera and document it as evidence." Leon thanked her and then called Aaron with an update. "Perfect," Aaron said. "This strengthens our case. I've already prepared our response to Gregory's lawsuit, but now we can add a restraining order request based on this new evidence." Later, that day, Leon met with Aaron at his office to review the legal documents. Together, they compiled all the evidence: the trespassing incidents, the HOA meeting recording, and now the illegal camera placement. "We're filing a countersuit for harassment and asking for a restraining order against both Patricia and Gregory," Aaron explained. "With this much evidence, we should win easily." "Will that be enough to end this?" Leon asked. Aaron shrugged. "Hard to say. People like the Whitmores don't give up easily when their pride is hurt, but it will give them legal consequences if they continue." Leon nodded, thinking. "There's something else we could try, a different approach." "What do you have in mind?" "Let me make a call first," Leon said. "I'll explain later." That evening, Leon invited Susan Martinez to his house again. After showing her the footage of Gregory placing the camera, he explained his new idea. "Can it be done?" he asked when he finished. Susan smiled. "Absolutely. It's actually simpler than the pool system. I can have it ready by tomorrow." The next day, a small team installed new additions to Leon's security system. Unlike the pool system, these were completely invisible. No one watching the house would notice anything different. 3 days passed quietly. Leon went about his normal routine while monitoring the neighborhood cameras for the Whitmores' movements. Gregory drove past Leon's house several times each day, slowing down to look for his camera, which the police had removed. On the 4th day, Leon's patience was rewarded. At 2 a.m., his security system alerted him to movement at his front yard. The night vision cameras showed Gregory and another man approaching his house. Gregory carried a spray can, while the other man had something that looked like a small drone. Leon watched calmly as Gregory began spraying something on his front door. From the camera angle, it appeared to be offensive words. The other man prepared to launch the drone, which had a small container attached to it. "Computer, activate yard security protocol," Leon said quietly. Outside, silent sensors detected the intruders. Invisible beams mapped their exact positions. Then, with perfect timing, hidden sprinklers emerged from the ground and activated, but they didn't spray water. Gregory and his companion were suddenly covered in the same blue identification foam that had marked Patricia. They shouted in surprise, dropping their spray can and drone. The drone fell into a flower bed, its container, breaking open and spilling a foul-smelling liquid that was clearly meant to be dumped on Leon's property. "Intruders detected," announced the security system in a loud, clear voice. "Criminal vandalism in progress. Authorities have been notified. All activities are being recorded with night vision technology." Gregory and his friend tried to run but slipped on the foam that now covered the grass. As they scrambled away, the system continued to spray them until they were completely blue from head to toe. Leon calmly picked up his phone and called the police. "This is Leon Taylor. My security system just caught 2 men vandalizing my property. I have clear video identification of both individuals." Within minutes, police cars arrived with flashing lights. By then, Gregory and his friend had fled, but they left behind clear evidence: the spray can, the damaged drone, and a trail of blue footprints leading down the street. Officer Miller arrived to take Leon's statement. She checked the security footage and collected the abandoned items as evidence. "That's Gregory Whitmore," she confirmed, looking at the crystal-clear night vision images. "And the other man appears to be his cousin, who works for the city parks department. This is serious criminal vandalism." Leon nodded. "I want to press charges." "With this evidence, that won't be a problem," Officer Miller assured him. "Though, I have to say your security system is impressively effective." The next morning, news spread quickly through the neighborhood. Gregory Whitmore, prominent city council member, had been arrested for criminal vandalism and trespassing. His cousin was also arrested as an accomplice. Both men were easy to identify. They were still colored bright blue. Leon received a call from Alice Johnson, the HOA president. "I've called an emergency board meeting for this afternoon," she said. "In light of recent events, we're considering severe sanctions against the Whitmores, possibly even requesting they sell their property and leave the community. Would you be willing to attend?" "Of course," Leon replied. The meeting was brief. With the criminal charges and overwhelming evidence of harassment, the board voted unanimously to impose the maximum penalties allowed under their guidelines. Whitmores would face significant fines and possible expulsion from the community. As Leon left the meeting, he received a message from Aaron. "Gregory's lawyer just contacted me. They want to settle everything privately." 2 days later, Leon sat across from Gregory in Aaron's office. Gregory's skin still had a faint blue tinge, despite obvious attempts to clean it off. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by sullen anger. "Here are our terms," Aaron said, sliding a document across the table. "Mr. Whitmore will drop all legal claims against Mr. Taylor. The Whitmores will sign a legally binding agreement never to enter Mr. Taylor's property again. In return, Mr. Taylor will not pursue additional civil damages beyond what the criminal court decides." Gregory glared at Leon. "You've ruined my reputation in this city." Leon met his gaze calmly. "You did that yourself when you chose to break the law instead of respecting boundaries." After a long moment, Gregory signed the papers. As he stood to leave, he couldn't resist one last comment. "I still don't understand why you couldn't just share your pool like a normal neighbor." Leon smiled slightly. In space, Commander Taylor's first rule was simple: respect boundaries or face consequences. It applies everywhere, even in suburbs. 1 week later, a for sale sign appeared in front of the Whitmores' house. The neighborhood was quiet once again. Leon enjoyed his morning coffee by his pool, which remained exactly as he wanted it, private and peaceful. His wrist device chimed with a message from Susan. "Security system working well?" Leon smiled, watching the sunlight dance on his undisturbed pool water. "Better than expected," he replied. "Turns out the same principles that keep order in space work just as well on Earth." That evening, several neighbors stopped by to thank Leon for standing up to the Whitmores. Many brought small gifts or dishes of food. For the first time since moving to the neighborhood, Leon felt truly at home. As stars appeared in the evening sky, Leon floated peacefully in his pool, looking up at them. Somewhere up there, the SDF horizon continued its silent orbit. Down here, in his small corner of Earth, the peace he had fought to protect in space was finally his to enjoy.